Hello everybody. Of course, you already know the deal. I have another question for you. What does it take to survive the end of the world? Not just physically, but emotionally. In a world where civilization collapses, morality decays, and the dead outnumber the living, one for every one person in the apocalypse, there is 10,000 walkers. And where survival is no longer about strength. Alone, it biomes Dope City. Is that a word? Dope City? Yeah, it's another word for awesome, I guess. I suppose. Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah, Dope City. Another word for awesome. But it's also about the parts of humanity you're willing to lose. And no character in The Walking Dead represents that struggle more than one man, one myth, one legend. And that is Daryl Dixon, a man who started as an outsider, a violent one, a violent, unstable survivalist, a shadow of his own damaged past, and slowly, he transformed into one of the most loyal, complex, and essential figures in the entire series, from season 1 all the way to season 11, even into his own spin-off show. Now, as you all know, the Walking Dead series is based off of the comic book, made by the one and only Robert Kirkman. And I just want to add, Daryl Dixon is an actual original character. He wasn't in the comics. He is a completely made up character by the show writers. And they wrote the Archer that is Daryl Dixon perfectly. But Daryl's story doesn't just begin within the apocalypse. Dude, it actually started long before the dead even walked. And to truly understand him, we have to go back to who he was before the end world, the world ended, and see that life in and we see the life in the POV of Daryl Dixon in the video game, the survival instinct, that is actually, it's actually canon to the main show for his character. And dude, I can't emphasize this enough. It might get a lot of flack, but in all reality, the Walking Dead survival instinct was perfect and is actually canon for Daryl's story in the main show. And me and my brother, shout out Austin, me and him played that game like we played it over and 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 over again. But if you do like the video, you all already know what to do. Please like, sub, and do all that good stuff. Also follow the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, or X for daily updates and stuff like that. Please stick around. We are building something beautiful together. And eventually I'll post my books if they're not already posted by the time this video is posted. But nonetheless, let's get further into the video, everyone. All right, let's go. Before we get more into the lore of the amazing game, I want to talk about how that Daryl Dixon grew up in rural American South, because obviously, he's an American redneck, so obviously he grew up in the South. But he was also raised in a deeply broken household. His father, Will Dixon, was very abusive, violent, and also emotionally absent. His mother died in a house fire when he was very young, an event that left both him and his older brother Daryl, Merle, emotionally scarred. And from an early age, Daryl learned two things: pain is normal, and trusting people can get you hurt. Now, unlike many survivors in the apocalypse, Daryl didn't become hardened when the world ended. He already was. And that's why he is so perfectly written, because he doesn't become anything, as he spent much of his youth wandering, hunting, and surviving off the land. During this time, he became skilled with a crossbow, tracking and trapping, even navigating the wilderness environment, becoming an absolute legend in his own right. But, however, socially, he was almost completely disconnected from everybody. While Merle Dixon, his older brother, embraced aggression and chaos, oftenly being arrested, Daryl was quieter, observant, reacted, and deeply defensive. And this dynamic between the two brothers would define much of his early arc, because Merle was his anchor, and he was also his poison. And then, however, Merle is eventually lost early in the outbreak by the hands of the governor. Then Daryl is forced back into something unfamiliar: independence. Not emotional freedom though, but isolation. He left his people so he can actually be with his older brother again, only to die at the hands of a tyrant. And that isolation becomes his default state when the world finally collapses. When the outbreak begins in The Walking Dead, we see that society completely collapsed in a matter of no time, almost instantly. I mean, the military got absolutely wiped out, and the CRM was the remnants of the military. And I do believe, like, where's Atlanta? Georgia, right? I think I should know that. I'm 26, and I think I should know that. Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, yeah, that seems about right. I feel like in that entire area, the governor's men aided in the eradication of the military in that region. So, but let's go back into the topic of Daryl, because Daryl, like many survivors, falls in with groups for practicality rather than trust. I mean, originally, after the events of the game, him and Merle joined the Atlanta group in the quarry to steal their supplies originally, but instead actually started to care for the people, and he initially operates as a part of the group alongside his brother and us other loosely connected survivors. But by then, Daryl is not a leader because, this is season 1, 2, and 3. I mean, he's not a leader yet. He's a tool for survival, a hunter, a tracker, a man who oftenly goes where others don't, where others won't, in fact. Though after Merle is separated from the group after Rick does cuff him to the roof, Daryl becomes even more volatile and explosive with his decisions, because he is not yet the man fans recognize, because again, this is his early arc. And at this stage, he is very more aggressive, short-tempered, and very deeply distrustful of anyone outside his immediate survival bubble. But everything begins to change when he encounters the one and only Rick Grimes. And at first, he doesn't trust him, but he quickly and somehow warms up to Rick, sensing his kind-hearted nature, and is even engrossed in the way he handles himself. But he still doesn't trust anybody. But he knows at this point that survival forces cooperation, and slowly something begins to shift in Daryl. Just as Merle asks, his baby brother to kick off his lady heels.
Hey, kick off them damn high heels and climb, son.
Daryl does step up and becomes an absolute powerhouse for the entire group, aiding Rick anywhere he can. Season one is where, like, he was all, oh, fuck you guys, deuces. And then season 2, 3, and moving forward, he starts to open up and actually starts caring for people. But again, as the series continues, we see more and more of Daryl actually starting to care for people. But then we have the return of Merle. And this return changes everything. Even after the two actually nearly had a fight to the death in the governor's death pit, I guess you can call it, death arena, their bond is still strong even after spending so much time apart. Because now, Merle is no longer just his older brother. He is a symbol of Daryl's past too, a violent reminder of who Daryl used to be. And when Merle finally reappears with the governor and his forces, Daryl is forced into a physiological war. Blood versus morality, family versus found family, past versus future. I mean, he did venture through a hostile country. In the survival instinct, he traveled through the country to get to his brother. And this conflict defines Daryl's early moral evolution. While unlike Merle, who embraces absolute brutality and self-interest, Daryl begins to lean slowly towards Rick's philosophy of group survival. Though it's not immediate though. It is painful, it is conflicted, and it's not clean, far from it. Then, when Merle ultimately dies by the hand of Philip, aka the governor, Daryl doesn't just cry easily, and he does not break down dramatically. Instead, he internalizes it, because as we know, that's Daryl's trauma response. It's silence, and from this silence, he begins to rebuild himself, not as Merle's brother, into something new, as an absolute in survivability, because that is what Daryl is good at. Because in reality, and in all honesty, he has actually mastered survival. Even more so as the series progresses in The Walking Dead, Daryl further evolves into something unexpected, a true protector. We see this as he actively protects Rick, Carl, Carol, even Rosita and Eugene. So he becomes one of the most reliable scouts, hunters, and field operatives in the entire group. Just like Michonne's katana and Negan's baseball bat Lucille, his crossbow also becomes iconic, not just as a weapon though, but as a symbol of precision, control, and restraint. That is one thing I like about The Walking Dead, and that is the iconicness of each person, from Rick's Colt Python, Daryl's crossbow, to Lucille, and all the other like gear from the Governor's AUG, or the weird silenced GTA weapon Daryl was wielding in the finale for season 7. But moving forward with Daryl, unlike the others who rely on firearms and noise, Daryl always operates quietly, efficiently, and emotionally distant. But he is always dependable and begins forming bonds. We see with Carol, he understands trauma and transformation. With Rick, who sees leadership potential in him. With Carol's adopted family structure. Which does mirror Daryl's own lost sense of belonging. And with Judith, it represents innocence he does actually want to protect, and which is why I actually actively further enjoy Daryl's character, because he actively protects children, not just Judith, but like RJ and I forget the girl that Aaron ends up raising, along with many others like Connie and the others. I feel like if Norman Reedus, aka the actor who plays Daryl Dixon, were to meet like Nova Online or Cyrax, he would absolutely like fuck him up on sight, in my opinion. Anyways, back to the main topic. Daryl never fully becomes soft throughout the entire series. I mean, he is always a Giga Chad, no matter what. He becomes something more realistic, a man who cares deeply, but he still struggles to express it. He is a man who will risk everything for people he never admits are family to him. This is where Daryl transitions from survivor to a pillar, because in reality, he does actually protect and save people. I mean, he nearly died finding Sophia, trying to find Sophia. He almost died fighting the Alpha. He saved Rick in Terminus, saved Carol from a horde, along with many other feats of protection, showing much how he truly cares for his family. Even though I feel like him and Carol would have explored their potential romantic feelings in the show, but I guess, I mean, in reality, us fans can't get everything we ask for, right? So, I mean, I wish they would have explored it. There's some romantic tension there, obviously. Unfortunately, like I said, we can't get everything we want. Now, can we? Unfortunately. Now, we get into the video game aspect of the video. And to understand Daryl's earlier emotional foundation, we turn to the game that is The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, a prequel to the show. A narrative where it explores Daryl's early journey with Merle during the early outbreak, in fact. We see that Daryl is still fully shaped by Merle's influence at this time during the game. I mean, he did cross the entire country to also get to Merle. Yet, he is still less refined, he's more reactive, and still operating in pure survival mode, because the game emphasizes strongly resources are scarce, family dependency, the early outbreak chaos, and the moral ambiguity in their survival decisions. Daryl's primary motivation in this period is not heroism, it is reunion, because he is searching for Merle. Every action is rooted in that singular goal. This adds critical context to his emotional development in the later series, because we see that Daryl doesn't start as a hero. He starts as a lost son looking for a broken brother in a broken world. And when he finally loses that brother permanently in the main storyline, he is forced to redefine what family even means. And yet, throughout the game, he saves other survivors and deals with threat. I mean, we as a player go out of our way to get Merle drugs for his sunburn, and he actually abandons us and goes after the biker game that ratted him out. And in fact, I want to add, like, the angel wing vest Daryl wears throughout the entire series. He was in a motorcycle accident and survived, therefore he earned those wings. So the vest he wears is very important to him because he almost died and he earned it. Though this game does perfectly display the world even better, as the player runs, fights, and interacts with the world. We see visual cues of survivability, which is why I did actually enjoy the game. Me and my younger brother Austin, we played the absolute shit out of Survival Instinct. And yeah, we got it on the Xbox 360 when it originally came out. And Survival Instinct might get a lot of flack for stuff like that, but dude, it was a good game. Okay, we cannot deny that. Sure, it had its bugs and stuff like that. All games do, especially back then with like somewhat older games, right? It was still perfect, but also because it was like it has a special place in my heart because it was one of the games me and my brother actively played. I mean, that's another reason why I loved Destiny and Skylanders so much, because those are games me and my brother played together. Though now we're away from the video game topic and the early POV version of events. We go back into how Daryl actually cares. And one of the most defining aspects of his character is the inability or even his unwillingness to verbalize his emotion. He does not confess feelings. He does not give speeches. He doesn't even articulate love in the traditional ways. We see this when he meets his first love, the person who introduces Daryl to his canine companion, who he names Dog. We saw how much he actually did love her, despite I believe he was the one who killed her, right? He actually did actively love her, but with her and the other people, he does show his love through taking risks, his protection, his sacrifice, but he also shows it through his presence. And from season 2 all the way on forward, his relationship with Carol is especially important throughout the series. And the writers hit the mark perfectly because they are not romantic in the traditional sense, even though I feel like they should have explored it somewhat. But they are emotionally bonded through trauma, loss, and their own survival because they understand each other. And Rick Grimes also plays a critical role in Daryl's transformation too, because Rick never forces Daryl to become someone else, because he does allow Daryl to evolve naturally into a leadership role over time. And this trust is essential because Daryl does not respond to authority. It's just how he grew up. So instead, he responds to respect. And Rick gives him a lot of respect, which is why Daryl cares so deeply about him, because it was him that truly saw Daryl and didn't expect anything from him, or didn't expect him to be anything until he actually was that thing he needed to be. After the death of Mr. Grimes, and by the later stages of The Walking Dead, Daryl is no longer just a survivor now. In this point in the story, he is now a strategist, a protector, a symbolic backbone for the group and the surrounding communities. He is also a man who carries emotional weight for others. I mean, he actively takes care of Judith and RJ and the other kids in the communities while their parents are away handling survivors, and he's healing. But perhaps most importantly, he is still Daryl, because he never becomes overly polished. He never becomes a leader in speeches. He remains grounded in action, a man on field, a man in silence, in presence, even in absolute. And his evolution is not about becoming someone new. It's about learning that he is never just a broken man. He was a man who adapted to survive brokenness, and in doing so, he becomes one of the most stable forces in an unstable world, and he is purely perfected. And he stands out as one of my absolute favorite characters in media, just like, Rick Grimes is. Though Daryl Dixon's story is not one of sudden transformation. It isn't even a redemption arc like Negan, in the traditional sense at least, but it is something more realistic, even more human. And I love that because in the story of a man who it's a story of a man who never stopped surviving long enough to realize he had become something more. He became a protector, a brother, he even became a symbol of loyalty. And in a world defined by betrayal, and maybe he becomes a symbol of loyalty in a world that is defined by betrayal. And maybe that is why Daryl Dixon resonates so deeply with me, because he never tries to be a hero ever. He just refuses to stop surviving for the people who still matter. And just like Rick and Michonne and even Negan, that's why Daryl is also one of the ones who lived. Alright everybody, if you actually did enjoy this video, please do do a like, sub, and comment down below what you actually liked the part of the video. But without further ado, everybody, I'll go ahead and catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.